We have been covering the assassination attempt of President Trump since the day of. We were the shots rang out at 5:11 Central Time. By 5:17 Central Time, 6 minutes later, we were on air, and we have been covering it ever since. And one of our biggest assets on the ground, if you will, is investigative journalist George Webb, whose latest piece at Substack is Assassination Sheriff Lashes Out at Citizen Journalist. Projection of blame now a high art form in presidential assassination circles in Butler, Pennsylvania. And George, using his AI artwork generating skills, has made a tragedy out of Paul Blart Mall Cop. George Webb, leave Paul Blart Mall, the lovable Paul Blart Mall Cop, out of this. He did nothing. It's not his fault. But you had to throw Mall Cop into all this. How are you, brother?
I'm great. I'm great. I just said you could stop the whole assassination with one mall cop and a lawn chair on the roof. I also gave credit to the Walmart cop. You saw the Walmart cop. You saw the kid with the drone that could stop it. You saw the various other people, grandmother with caution tape could stop it. You saw the various people who could stop this. And I just thought I'd take a little fun with the AI art.
Yeah, I love the grandma with the caution tape. The only problem with the grandma with the caution tape is if she's a Trump fan, she's probably in jail for being in there on January the 6th.
Well, you mentioned Kamala Harris and you mentioned Macbeth, and I think this story has now taken a crazy turn toward. You remember when Lady Macbeth trying to get the blood off her hands after they kill the king, and out spot out, she's scrambling to try to get the blood off her hands. We have that bloody scene within the bloody sink right out of Macbeth in this story now. In the command post, we have this guy who's making the Dave Stewart guy who's making the video out there by the American Glass Research Building 6, and he gets over near a police car. As they're moving him around, and he can get the chatter and back talk off the police. It's on his video, and it says, first shooter dead, chasing second shooter, we breached the building, and we're going in. There's blood in the sink. So they're chasing a second shooter, and Dave Stewart's saying, hey, how could there be, if the first guy's dead on the roof, how could there be a second guy bleeding in the sink? There has to be a second guy.
Right.
So that's today's news.
Now, who is it that says that they're chasing the second? Just for our listeners, so they'll understand, who says they're chasing the second shooter?
It's a township radio. I think it's Butler Township Radio. The Butler Township people are actually really good to me in Butler. So I think he's overhearing a Butler Township police car saying, "Hey, we're going after." And I produced on George Webb on my Real George Webb 1 Twitter. You can see the clip where you could actually hear Dave talking about that. And that's going to be, that's hard to explain. How was the guy bleeding on the first floor when the other guy's dead on the second floor?
Okay, realgeorgewebb.substack.com. This is your fifth visit here. We visited every week. I want you to walk me through something, brother, because I'm just a little confused. So I'm going to play Public Citizen Reader of George Webb Substack, Public Citizen number 1, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Explain how the bloody handprint, I see it. I believe it's a handprint. It is clearly someone's left hand that is on the wall that was scaled by the Butler Township cop, by his buddy helping him up, by throwing him up, by clasping his hands together. But this handprint is already there before shots are fired. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, what is George, you're saying that this is possibly Urich's handprint and Urich's blood, but why wouldn't he still be on the roof? Why is he bleeding? And this is what? This is like, he's on the cop is on the way up. He is 39 seconds, according to my timeline, from the time he falls backwards after not showing crooks on his body cam. There were 39 seconds to the shot rings out. So in your theory, Whose blood is that on the wall? Why is it there before the shots? And where is the person whose blood that you think, or where do you think this person whose handprint is on that wall? Where are they?
They're in the command center. Now, they practice this on the 8th, and part of any preparation for a big event like this is you practice, right? You practice how you're going to go from an incognito position to a ready position to a fire and aim position, right?
Okay.
And they went to the Walmart, so I have evidence on this. They went to the Walmart on the 8th. Urich and Crooks, I believe, go there. We don't have the film from them buying those 5-foot ladder, but you have to scale the building in order to get to the shooter position, right? Yes. And you have one shooter. My theory is one shooter, which is Urich. You have one spotter, which is Crooks. So Crooks is being the patsy as a spotter. The Urich fires the 3 shots, okay, and then says, "Cover me," and then takes his exit, right? Because he's going to go do something. You know, he's outlined there's some threat in the audience that he's going to go neutralize. And Crooks fires 5 covering shots. That puts everybody's head down, and that covers Urich's escape. Urich goes into the command center. He's bleeding profusely. Now, he could have injured himself on the 8th when they went to get the ladder at Home Depot while they're practicing this, because what you have to do is hold this concrete block at 10 feet with your left hand, right, and then dangle down and then fall the last 4 feet down. And if you, in that motion, if you cut your hand doing that, and then you put your hand against the wall, you leave a bloody handprint. It would be dried. It would be 5 days later on the 13th.
Oh, okay. I got it. Got it. So this was a practice run.
Yeah, practice run.
Okay.
But my point is that on the day of the shooting, he re-injures the hand, right? The hand is bleeding again. And you can hear Dave Stewart's video saying, first guy dead on the roof. The police chatter says the first shooter dead on the roof. We're pursuing the second shooter, going in, breaching the second building, breaching the building. He's bleeding in the sink. So he's re-injured the hand in some way. The ladder escapes. We also have now a backpack being surreptitiously moved over at the 1900 mark, at the 6 o'clock mark, a backpack being surreptitiously removed by some insiders in that command post. So this thing is exploding in terms of loose ends, and that whole conspiracy is unwinding, I believe.
Okay. George Webb, GeorgeWebb.substack.com, investigative journalist. George, I want to play for the audience, especially those watching on Crusade Channel TV out there. Here is the audio recording of what George is talking about from Real George Webb 1 at x.com.
Okay, George Webb, second shooter video. People say, where do you get the information from? Directly from the police. Here's Dave Stewart, the guy behind the tree, second shooter. Blood in the bathroom later on. How can that be if there's not a second shooter? I say the first shooter is actually Urich going down the side of the building, bleeding and leaving a bloody transfer stain on the side of the building. But here it is, second shooter. It's right on the radio, the township radio, right on the township radio. Dave Stewart right there recording it on the township radio. Second shooter, blood in the sink. Second shooter, blood in the sink.
I
don't know why that's not playing. Go ahead.
Why isn't the audio playing?
I don't know.
The audio,
That was the audio.
That was the audio? I know. I've heard it, so I know that it works. We'll see if you can get it fixed. Okay. So, second...
what Dave Stewart says is what I just said, is, hey, I went over to the township car because they were afraid I was going to get shot. I could hear the chatter on the chatter box from the radio. They said first shooter dead, second shooter in building. We breached the building, and there's blood in the sink. The words "blood in the sink" come over the car radio. So this is the Kamala Harris Macbeth moment, outspot out, Lady Macbeth trying to get the blood off her hands. this is right out of Shakespeare, and we're not letting this lead go.
Okay, I have a lot of questions. That was just one of them. So let me go. Here is my second question. There's supposed to be an inquest. There's supposed to be this commission in Congress that they're going to get all this information together. The only one that's doing anything, Senator Grassley and Senator Johnson, it seems to me. We are a month today, George. 1 month ago today, July 13th, today's August 13th. 1 month ago today, this happened here. Still has not been a timeline that has been assembled by anyone that I know. And there are a couple of things now that bother me, and they are bothering me because of your reporting. The 3 windows that overlook the AGR building that Crooks was on. There's supposed to be 3 CS guys in those those windows. Is that correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when did they leave? Because they were there. When did they leave their post? And how is it possible with all the people running around there that are not in the fairgrounds where Trump is, the people that have been submitting videos, how is it possible that there is no video of those officers exiting those buildings? Now, we know at least one of them. We know who he is. We know who he is. Because he's in the body cam footage when the cop gets thrown up on the roof and he supposedly sees Crooks by himself, supposedly, which is what he says. Now, we tried to reenact this. And my friend and I went, okay, Justin here. Justin and I reenacted this. If he saw Crooks directly, okay, the body cam doesn't pivot enough to give us a picture, as you point out. But if his head pivots enough to the left, he's going to stop where he sees the gun. Are you with me on that?
You're talking about the pop-up cop?
I'm talking about pop-up cop. He's going to stop where he sees the gun. And because he's going to stop where he sees the gun, there's less than a second from when he stops and he falls backwards. There is not time enough to continue the pivot of your head to the left to see Urich. That's my point. Their story, the official story, which I never thought was all together to begin with, is starting to unravel. Let's go back to Pop-Up Cop. So Pop-Up Cop has gotten a boost from his fellow officer buddy who has clasped his right hand and left hand together. Pop-Up Cop places his right foot into the clasped hands. He is hoisted, he is boosted up so that he can get to the peak of the roof that joins the 2 buildings, the AGR building and the other building. As he gets up, he apparently begins to turn his head to the left. The body doesn't follow because it's up against the wall of the roof. George, are you with me on that so far?
Yep.
Okay.
And the body cam's about a foot below his eyes.
Yes.
But he's at a lower roof, and Crooks is at a higher roof, about a 4-foot higher roof.
Yes.
And his body pivots just the slightest amount, maybe 10 degrees to the left, doesn't come anywhere near the roof, catches a little tiny corner picture of Crooks's backpack, and then he pops immediately back down 40 seconds before the shots ring out. And my point here is this is a covering pop-up. This is where, hey, I did I did my job. I tried to stop the assassination. You know what I mean? No, the way to stop the assassination is actually having a mall cop on the roof, or a Walmart cop, or the kid with the drone, or the grandmother with caution tape, right? Not improvising some crazy, little kids Indian hoist game at the last second, right? And the camera does not show what he says he saw.
That's right.
Which was, he says he encountered the shooter, and that distracted the shooter, and that caused Crooks to stand up and pivot and turn his head and look and then point the gun at the pop-up cop. That's absolutely not possible, like you said, Mike. There's no possible way that could happen. That's a 1 to 2 second transaction, not a tenth of a second transaction. And we know that that's not what happened because the shooter went on to shoot. So to me, it seems like foreknowledge, that we're going to just have a show of intercession, have a show of, hey, we tried, but, just couldn't do it. And Trump got killed.
So, okay, let me play Diablo Avocata here, devil's advocate here. Let's just take, because we don't know, let's take preconception off the table here, and let's just run this out in real time. And I think that the scenario works either way. Pop-up cop ascends to the roof. Neck and head are above the line of the lower roof. So the body cam is exposed. It begins to pivot to the left. Backpack, yes. Shooter, someone in shorts, as he says. He says tall, white shorts, long hair, glasses. That's what he says. If you listen back to the recording, he described white. He says white shorts. He says white shorts, tall, glasses, long hair, and that is the extent of the explanation. Now, my point is that it is possible that he could have seen the backpack, and he could have seen Crooks, and that he fell back to because he falls backwards. My question is why? Okay, where he runs to though does not make sense to me. Because he runs to the opposite pitch of the roof. Why?
Right, and at that point, you have a person that you recognize, right? What I'm hearing him say is, that's not one of our guys.
That's right. He does say that. That's not one of our guys.
Right, there's a friend and foe analysis, and he's saying that's a bad guy, okay? Immediately, what I do is I send a signal flare or some kind of prearranged signal that we're in trouble, right? I get on my radio and say, shooter on the roof. Or I get out my service revolver and I pop 6 shots into the ground, as warning. I blow a whistle, right? I mean, these are not advanced technologies, right? But I do something, and there should be some sort of smoke or whatever at the, prearranged, covering for the president, that it doesn't require the president to be a ballerina, doing dodging
a
bullets,
half pirouette.
like Matrix. We don't want the president to have to be Neo, with dodging bullets. We should have some kind of smoke screen that we could put up for the president in these kind of cases. A panic button. You have these things. Like I said, there's more cameras for people to watch their packages, right, at their doorstep with the Amazon packages and Ring doorbells,
yes,
than there were cameras already placed. And we know that Advanced Glass Research already has a tremendous number of cameras because they're a defense contractor. They've been doing bulletproof glass for the military and space program for the last 80 years. So nothing about this makes sense.
Okay, so I want to go back with George and I'm going to hold out hope though that this cop wasn't in on it, and that
right.
he was just a wrong place, wrong time, and made wrong decisions. But one of the things that just perplexes me, George, he runs past his cruiser. He doesn't go for the AR, which is the long-range choice of how you would snipe the guy yourself. He runs past his cruiser to the tree. And then 39 seconds after he's fallen from the roof, you hear pop, 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 right? The shots. At the point of hearing the shots, first of all, he ducks. Okay, you see the camera go down, he ducks. Then he makes a beeline and he runs to his cruiser. Now, this is where I couldn't wait to talk to you about this. I started to call you and go like, and just vomit all over you. I'm like, no, he's busy doing the reporting, so I'll just tell him in real time. When he runs back to his cruiser, what do we encounter? At 43 seconds now. At 43 seconds, we encounter a Beaver County Sheriff's deputy in dark green khaki slacks and a khaki shirt, who does have an AR. He does have a rifle. He now has Crooks' exit covered. Crooks isn't getting off that roof without that guy because he's standing guard right there. You agree with that? That's what the video shows.
Yeah, and Greg Nickel is there as well, Beaver County. And he's the one who's in charge of the whole building and the roof. Yeah.
Okay.
Continue. Go ahead.
Okay. So now Urich's only exit point now is in between the two buildings. Now he can get off through. So Crooks it will be neutralized here. Urich, apparently, if there is a second shooter, now to me, the smoking gun of the second shooter is look at the photographic evidence. First of all, How come we get HD video when the cop's running off the roof and when he's encountering the Beaver County Sheriff's Department, when he's loading the magazine into his AR, everything is in HD, and then we get up on the roof and all of a sudden we get Betamax. We get worse than Betamax.
We get worse than Zapruder film.
The Zapruder is HD compared to that video that's on the roof. And it happens like that. As soon as he ascends the roof, video goes bad. But the thing that stands out to me is Crooks is laying there. There is a stream of blood, pool of blood at his head. You can't really see it, but the stream of blood is going off the angle of the roof, right? You could clearly see that. The weapon is 4 rungs of the corrugated metal over to his left. It is pointed at exactly the right angle at where Trump was standing. As you look at you couldn't have laid the gun there. It is almost as though someone else was there, was shooting with it, right? With it upright, popped the rounds up, pop, and then laid the weapon down, oriented exactly as it was, and then made a getaway in between the two buildings. I'm assuming that is your theory, because to me, if you can't explain, okay, where are the shell casings? They never say where the shell casings are. They never look at the ground when they're counting the shell casings. They are standing where Crooks is, but where are the shell casings? All of them.
They're between Crooks and the weapon, because they eject sort of to the right. But if first of all, on the whole shooter-spotter theory, my theory is shooter-spotter. I got evidence that they were out at Clareton Sportsman's Park. Crooks went out there 43 times. Urick was already also went out there. Greg Nickel from the Beaver County was also out there.
Right.
I've got records showing the DHS guy paid $1,000 for the whole team to go out there to shoot, and every time Urick went, he only paid $1. So I've got the team all going out there. I say they all go out in the white van. Tony Guy, the sheriff of Beaver County, tweets out the white van in August when the training starts. So I've got the white van saying that that's the shooting team's shooting van going to Clareton. So my point here is they've practiced together 43 times, okay? I believe the scenario is called rally shooter, but we'll get to that later, DHS exercise. But what we know is if you practice together 43 times, you have one guy's a shooter, one guy's a spotter. One guy has a monocle, which has a bigger field of vision for finding, and he is trying to follow up and help the sniper identify unfriendly faces in the crowd, right?
Right.
And this is how a counter sniper team works. And you can see the proof of that on the building behind Trump. You can see the sniper and the spotter in the combination. So you know that's how they're configured. So Crooks dies in the spotter position. Yeah, we just have to follow the evidence, right? Crooks dies in the spotter position, not in the shooter position. And this other piece of evidence that we cannot deny, we cannot just forget evidence, is the blood of the second shooter in the bathroom. The person would have had to come down basically the same way the pop-up cop popped up. That puts new DNA up there, right there on the shooter's exit, right? Right. And now I grab that concrete block where the pop-up cop was with my left hand, and I monkey kind of down to the ground, and then I run into the building. And now I'm one of the police. Now I'm one of the counter snipers. You asked about what happened with the 3 guys all leaving the window. My bet is one of those guys is the shooter, is Urick. One of the guys in the counter sniper team is Urick. It's a mass exodus, Mike. It's not Exodus, the second book of the Bible, and you're in my favorite book, right? But it's a mass exodus. All 3 shooters leave when Trump comes to the stage. Meaning, the most logical thing is one of those guys. We know one of them is Greg Nichols. Another guy's named Lenz, Lenz, and there's a third guy in this picture. And whoever left that post, I'm saying, is the guy who went up and fired those shots and then came back in the building. So, and there's a lot of evidence we can go through after this, but that's my fundamental theory.
This story is incredible. George, I want to go back to George Webb, real George Webb 1, the number 1 at Twitter. Maggie has the audio fixed now, so I want you to hear Dave, what's the guy's name, Dave?
Stewart.
Dave Stewart. Here is the audio about the blood in the sink.
And security and the other guy with the long gun moved us over to the township police car to take cover there. The door was open, and we could hear the radio communications. And they said, "Shooter dead on the roof." And then they said, "We breached the building. There's blood in the bathroom." We could hear the radio communications. And they said, "Shooter dead on the roof." And then they said, "We breached the building. There's blood in the bathroom. Second shooter on the loose."
There you have it right now. Okay, now who is the guy that's saying that they heard the radio chatter?
Dave Stewart worked at the Sheetz convenience store where the van was on 15 Lawrence.
Okay.
The van is moved over there at 15 Lawrence. And so there are people coming back and forth across the lawn of American Glass Research between the Sheetz building and that building 6. And he just happens to work at that same Sheetz convenience store. It's kind of like a 7-Eleven. And he is now between Trump, almost directly in line between Trump and the shooter. He's hiding behind an oak tree, and then he's now moving around taking video through this whole period of time.
So now this is the most incredible thing to me. No one in the MSM, the Malachian satanic media, has done the work that you have done on the ground here, and no one has reported about this van. You're the only one that keeps reporting about the van. So, and you now in your video or in the photograph at georgewebb.substack.com with your Quigley and Sutton University sweatshirt on in the middle of August, I guess you're losing weight. I guess you're in a workout. You're pointing at an Econoline van. Is this the van?
No, I went
It's
to Portland.
just a similar kind of van.
I'm trying to remind people of the van. I found a 99 van. The theory there being is I don't want a van that has OnStar. I want an older van because OnStar will ping IP addresses and create a set of breadcrumb paths just like a phone will. So you want to use an older van, and that's my point doing the video in front of the van. And I went to Portland, and I interviewed 2 police officers, and I also interviewed one of our better researchers who studies Antifa in Portland. And, I believe Portland, Oregon, and Seattle was where Urich really did most of his operations. I believe Urich is currently right now he's disappeared since the shooting, a whole month. None of his family knows where he is, and I believe he's sleeping in the van. So I'm trying to remind everyone we need to be looking for a 99 Chevy Express van, Safari van. The van was registered to his father, Roger Urich, who designed the Cheyenne Tactical Rifle. The Cheyenne Tactical Rifle was made to penetrate bulletproof vests. So that's the kind of rifle that was used to kill the police and create the instability in Ukraine because they had to shoot people on both sides to create the instability, and they could not penetrate the vest. So there's a lot of ties to Ukraine here. There's a lot of ties to Antifa, and we've got to get to the bottom of this because Trump is going back to that same place in October in Butler. So we got to deal with this before Trump gets back to Butler.
Okay, so I want people to be clear that are listening to the Mike Church Show here with my friend George Webb, investigative journalist here. The reason that he's staying on this case and the reason that we keep bringing George back on is because we do not believe that the official narrative story is correct. And because we don't believe that the story is correct, we're not taking any chances with the life of Donald John Trump. And if the shooter or shooters or the conspirators are still out there, then as Molly Hemingway is a very respected member of the conservative media industrial complex, as Molly Hemingway has been saying, if they tried once and they failed, why aren't we thinking that they're going to try again? Nothing politically has changed. Kamala is an imbecile. She's unelectable. The only way they can do this is to drag her across the finish line and cheat like there's never been cheating done before. So what then prevents Donald Trump from becoming POTUS 47? An assassination. It makes perfect sense to me. We're all out here, to me, in a sense of denial, and I am not trying to be paranoid, delusional here, George. I'm with you. I'm for the safety of the president.
Well, before this, we've been following Urich for 8 years, right? Since he did, trying to create shooting situations. His big thing is attack people when they're coming down an escalator where there's no escape. That's what he did in Pittsburgh in April of 2016. start pulling down signs, try to get some thing going, and then get somebody in the MAGA crowd to pull a weapon in self-defense, and then create a a scenario where you say these people are gun-toting racists that are out to kill us, right? That's the Antifa methodology. So that's who we're dealing with. This is a person, Urick, who's encouraged people to go to Washington, D.C. to blow up buildings. For J6, he's done Chaz and the Chop in Seattle. He's done, the Rittenhouse type actions in the Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Okay.
He's been all over the country, Los Angeles. So he's something that a guy who's not going to stop. And if we don't identify where he is and his network is before Trump gets back to Butler, we're in trouble.
And as we reported on yesterday's show, and just we were actually using your reporting, and Jesse Kelly of Fox News has brought this up. Thomas Matthew Crooks, went to the Clareton shooting range. He logged in 43 times in the last year. You can also see that usually he logs in and he chooses the rifle range. There are a couple instances where he chooses the handgun range, but he usually chooses the rifle range. DHS is training snipers and other shooters right there while Crooks is there. You know, at the very least, this just doesn't smell right. At the very least, you had the Department of Homeland Security doing open training drills there while the guy that's trying to kill Trump is as Jesse Kelly says, at least 6 times. At the same time, DHS is there training counter snipers or whatever here, and nobody is asking any questions about this. Come on.
Well, we're on the ground, and we believe the exercise is called Rally Shooter, written by Michael Chertoff before 9/11. That's how long this exercise has been around. And Clareton was the one of the sites where Deer Hunter was filmed. The reason why Deer Hunter was filmed there is because it's close to Pittsburgh and has the wildlife on that very large shooting range. But also, this has been a shooting range since Dick Cheney and Nixon in 1974, a counter sniper team for Dick Cheney. There's many connections between Dick Cheney and Cheadle. That's when Dick Cheney takes the presidency very briefly on 9/11. Who is the director? Who is the Secret Service person sitting next to Dick Cheney? Director Cheadle. The Secret Service. Yeah. Who's the person who is in by Flight 93 collecting the data for JTTF and saying there was anthrax on the plane in order to throw in continuity of government? Sheriff Tony Guy. The same guy, Sheriff Tony Guy, Beaver County, the same guy who put these snipers, these counter snipers, out at the Butler County Fairgrounds. Cheney also is very good friends with the Urick family. The Roger Urick, you can see Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney calling out the Uricks. This goes right back to the assassination of Reagan, right, where he's sitting there, with George H.W. Bush is sitting there with the parents of the Hinckley's parents. He's having lunch with John Hinckley Jr. while John Hinckley Sr. while John Hinckley Jr. is shooting the president in Washington.
Right.
Not well known, but I mean, this is really, something we have to look at. They developed this weapon to pierce bulletproof vests. It's 3 times the energy that has a normal bullet, the 308 versus the 408 bullet. So we really have to start looking at all the metadata and seeing if they're not trying to control presidential succession. They say we're going to put a bullseye on Trump 3 days before, right? They have the NATO summit meeting 3 days before. Trump is a threat to democracy. That's code for a threat to continuity of government.
Yep.
You've got. I wrote a piece on this called the Cheney sanction. So I mean, you got to look at this in terms of presidential. Look at this in terms of presidential succession, and Trump being a threat to democracy, and therefore this is allowable behavior, and that's why I say there's a standing sanction. There's a Cheney standing sanction on Trump still to this day. It didn't go away because they missed in Butler on July 13th.
Okay, so a final point that I want to make with George, and then we'll wrap this up, and I'll let him get back to his investigative reporting. I want to take you to Maggie. If you can grab my screen real quick, I will show the audience what I am talking about here. So, in your piece from yesterday, you say, I think the questions about the mass exodus of all his sniper teams when Trump took the stage riled Sheriff Guy the most. And then here is a graphic that you made, roof unprotected. You have the AGR building shaded, highlighted in red right here with a little inside caption box that says shooter and a yellow asterisk. If you go right above the yellow asterisk, that is the point of egress where, what do we call them, pop-up cop? That's where pop-up cop comes up right there, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we go to the left now where shooter is, you go all the way to the end, you'll see where the sniper building is, where the three windows are. You say snipers left their post, three red arrows pointing to second floor windows. Before we get there, adjacent to the red roof is another small kind of a roof that spans in between the two-story building and the AGR building. I estimate that there's about 75 feet in between Hop Up Cop, where he got on, and where Hop Up Cop could have slid down to safety. My question is, in between Hop Up Cop, Pop Up Cop, point of egress where the two roofs are joined, and then the other one 75 feet apart, you can't really see it here. Is there a doorway for Urick to get into that other building?
Yeah, I've got you on YouTube now. It looks like Urick may have ascended, not there, between those two buildings, between where snipers left their post,
yes,
the three arrows, and where the shooter is. It looks like he went in the courtyard. These buildings were built as American Glass Research was continuing to do DoD contracts for bulletproof glass, so they've added them one on another. I can see that they've not planned it out very well.
Okay.
Right, so there's a courtyard back the other way near Building 1 and Building 2. You're all the way at the end here at Building 6 with the pink roof.
Yes.
So up to the north is where he actually probably got on. And there was a bike there that kind of looks like it has a camera on it, filming Crooks getting on the roof. I believe we'll see Crooks getting on the roof somewhere between Building 1 and Building 2. And then running down, see how these little buildings have these little transoms in between them? Running down these little, jumping down these little transoms and then jumping back up on the roof, these little connecting causeways that they have between the buildings.
I see those.
And that's where we think his path is. And now we have a lot of video evidence to support that. My point is that's not the pathway of the second shooter. Second shooter is coming out of this building that you're showing right here.
Yep.
That's the command center. Where they're leaving the post, they're going out that door on the other side of the building, up a ladder or up having a cop hoist him or however they're doing it. He's getting up on the roof and then exiting the roof by kind of a monkey hang with one hand, and then dropping the 4 feet down and then going back into the building. Sort of on the right side of the thing that you're showing now, the right side of that command post building is where the approach and exit is.
Okay.
The second shooter.
Okay, I see. Okay, because he has to get in the building. Because now snipers left their post building. Is this where the sink is with the blood?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Urick somehow, the second guy, has to get in that building.
Let's say he's a part of the counter sniper team and has been going out in the white van 43 times with if he's a spotter sniper combination, they've gone 43 trips, right? So they know each other. And I confirm this, Mike. I went to Butler County Township. I went to Butler Township, and I said, were there other counties there? They said, yes, Beaver County. I said, what townships? She wouldn't tell me what townships, but she said there was other townships from other counties, and they had volunteer spotters.
Okay.
Now, that was told direct to me, so I know that they had volunteer spotters.
Okay. So,
and that would have, yeah, go ahead.
All right. So what? Okay. So what I believe then, and stitching what we know together now, then, what you're saying is that shooter where the yellow asterisk is, that's Crooks. To the right of that, on the pink shaded roof, would have been a Urick or the other shooter. Correct? Where the weapon is, found.
Right. Right. That would have been where Uric fired from.
Okay, so Uric would have sprinted across Breezeway 1, where Pop-Up Cop goes, and then would have exited by climbing down where the box is, where snipers left their posts at the top right-hand corner of that white box. That's where you're saying he went down into that courtyard.
Well, okay, so what I'm saying is that Uric's escape is almost exactly at the same point of where Pop-Up Cop is, to the right hand side of our frame here.
Oh, okay.
Which is you see that first nook between the two buildings
you're
to the
saying,
right?
Yeah, so you're saying he would have he would have descended on the opposite side of where Pop-Up Cop came up.
No, we're talking about Uric. I'm saying Uric. You see where the space is between the pink building and the white building here,
Yep.
all the way to the right.
Yes.
Of as I look at the screen, right there. Yeah, that's
Yes.
Nook 1. That's Nook 1. But a little bit further back is Nook 2. Right, a little bit to the north of your screen there.
Yes, I see it.
On the out, yeah, but it's on the other. It's not really pictured here, but it's on the outside of the building. That's where Pop-Up Cop comes up. Right there in the most upper right-hand corner of the screen is where Pop-Up Cop comes in. And you can't really see it. That's Nook 1, but the Nook 2 is a little bit to the north of that. Anyway, you'll see it. Pop-Up Cop. That's going to be the same. What I'm saying is the approach out of that building, right? And it's also the retreat out of that building. And there's the blood on the wall that proves it from the 5 days before when they rehearsed it. And the reason why they're suppressing the picture of them buying the ladder, and remember, it's not. I didn't introduce the ladder. Christopher Wray introduced the ladder and said the bloody receipt was in the pocket of Uric.
That's right.
Right. So, and we aligned it with Senator Johnson's IP data that showed them at Home Depot on the 8th, not the 13th. So one of the things that you could do to paint someone, like they did with Lee Harvey Oswald and the rifle, is to say, you go buy the ladder, right? Or I'll go with you and buy the ladder. You notice how they're suppressing the picture of them buying the ladder at Home Depot. Why? Why? Unless it's Uric and Crooks buying the ladder. Right, my point is, you saw the cop having to do the hoist. You know that there's some need for a 3 or 4 or 5 foot boost. You have this. It could just be discoloration. This could just be discoloration, Mike, and it's not blood. It sure looks like blood.
Looks like a handprint to me.
Yeah, and they left it on there, and that's really not the smartest thing in the world to do.
Where's the forensics team? Did they? There's so much.
They washed it all down.
I know, but did they pressure wash the side of the building too?
Well, they have since. We were out there. We've had many visits out there. They were pressure washing the whole roof and all the sides. Why would you do that to a crime scene? We also have the backpack of the shooter now from a camera that was left on inside a patrol car. And you watch Greg Nickel come out 110 seconds after the shooting. Okay. He looks like his team just lost the World Series, right? He's got his hands in his pockets. He doesn't have his gun drawn. This is supposed to be while cops are calling in a chase to get the shooter in the same building that he just walked out of, where he's got his hands in his pockets like he just lost Kentucky Derby. He bet his life savings on it. So nothing makes sense here unless you start thinking in terms of, hey, Trump's a threat to democracy. We need to put a team out there. He's a threat to democracy. We need to have somebody do a sanction on Trump. And now everything starts making sense.
Okay, so finally here, what do you then make of the cop? Okay. Well, first of all, why is there 46 seconds of no audio on Pop-Up Cop's camera? Did he not have the audio on? Because there's no indication in the recording to me that he turned something on that was off.
Right, and that is, I think, to not time. You can't hear the syncopation of the shots. But the other thing is, you have, that's going to be the time of the retreat, right? If Uric is on the roof with, this is why I say the Pop-Up Cop story. We need to subpoena the Pop-Up Cop, because there's a second shooter on the roof at that time. And they're trying to say, no, 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 there's just a guy with long hair, glasses, he's tall with white shorts, and there's nobody else on the roof, right? The pop-up cop is there, witness to say nobody else is involved, right? That's why we need to subpoena that cop, because he goes around and actually protects the retreat for Urich's retreat, right? Because what has to happen is there needs to be 3 shots fired by Urich. Urich's going to yell, cover me. The Crooks is going to reach over to the rifle and fire the gun sideways, 5 shots for covering fire. They've trained for that, right? And that's Urich's retreat. This cop, as you see, after pop-up cop goes, again, no audio, he goes and actually protects the retreat of Urich. He doesn't go to try to neutralize the shooter. He doesn't fire his weapon. He doesn't do any signaling.
No.
Right? He goes and protects Urich's retreat. And that's why pop-up cop is so important. And we, like I say, Mike, I wouldn't be talking about nefariousness if we didn't have evidence. We have the evidence being removed right in front of our eyes at the 1900 mark, at the 7 o'clock mark, where a backpack is taken from the location, and you can see the handoff between the 2 officers. So there's a lot more of investigation to be done here.
Boy, howdy, is there. Now, so what do you make then of the recording with the F-bombs in it of the cop saying, I told the effing Secret Service on Tuesday they had to cover that ref. I effing told them. He says it 4 times. I effing told them on Tuesday. I don't think this is high theater. Do you? I think this is someone that's very aggravated, that's not in on it, going like, what the F, dude? What the hell's going on here?
Well, it's kind of like a baseball team, Mike. That's right field in baseball parlance where he is, and he's the right fielder, right? And he's saying, I told the pitcher on Tuesday not to throw a slider and to Babe Ruth, right? And I dropped Babe Ruth's ball out here in right field because the pitcher threw a slider. No, that's your roof. You guys were assigned the wedge, the Pac-Man wedge. You guys, Beaver County, Tony Guy, Greg Nickel, Urich, and company, you guys were assigned to cover that roof. If you knew about it Tuesday, why didn't you have a mall cop on the roof with a lawn chair? Why didn't you have Walmart cop? Why didn't you have the girl with the drone, or the kid with the drone? Why didn't you have grandma with a caution tape? If you knew it was a vulnerability on Tuesday when you practiced this on the 8th, right, why didn't you then put somebody up there? You could literally have fans, like spectators, just say, hey, anybody wants to go up on the roof? We've got this ladder left over from Home Depot. Anybody wants to go sit up and watch it on the roof? It's fine with me. You could have had all those people at the fence sitting up there with lawn chairs like a 4th of July. That roof will actually hold. It's ADA certified, so you can actually have people with wheelchairs up there. So if you knew it was a problem on Tuesday, why didn't you do anything about it?
That makes complete sense now. Okay, where are you? Are you headed back to Butler, or where are you at now?
Headed back to Butler. I'm really not a fan. Tony Guy is calling me out directly several times in Twitter right now. He's trying to say I had nothing to do with it when all of his people are there. He's trying to say I had nothing to do with it and all his people are there. So it's a little dangerous, because I'm going up against, law enforcement and talking about a pretty big, serious conspiracy. So I have to kind of be a little bit quiet about my travels there, but we're going back to Butler.
I was going to say, so when are you going to Genoa, Italy, and you'll be you'll be getting a big giant wheel of cheese when? What day?
Yeah. I've never been to Columbus's hometown, so I've been to Columbus, Ohio a lot, but I've never been to the Columbus's hometown there. So,
all right. Well, thank you for all the great reporting, and you're right. This thing doesn't stack. I just want to say one final thing, and I have been quoting you and reading from your articles when they come out almost every day on the show and updating the audience, and I keep saying what George Webb said and I talked about in the first week. Why weren't there subpoenas issued immediately? Why
Yep.
didn't some magistrate, somebody appoint Shapiro? I don't care who it is. You need to get those people on subpoenaed, sworn in deposition record as every single cop that was there, every witness, as soon as possible, because the further away you get from the event, the foggier the memories get, and the more variables you're going to have in the story. Now you're a month out here, and because of you're just being exposed to media and people's opinions and everything, heaven knows if you could get everyone together now. Would the testimonies would they stack up? To their credit, the Metropolitan Dallas Police Department, the MDPD, there were witness statements while Oswald was sitting there waiting to be extradited and moved between jails. They were They were already interviewing witnesses. Has anyone been interviewed over anything? Do you know?
No, and I've talked to many, many, many witnesses when the 2 weeks we were there. But thank God for Butler County. Thank God for Butler Township, because they've released all their cameras. And the cameras really tell the story with all the timestamps. It's better than witnesses. And there's Chris Martinson's doing some great work. And there's some others that are doing some great work with the camera work. And you'll start seeing all these timestamps. So we have sort of the infallible witnesses with the camera's eye, and so we're really asking for Beaver County now to release all their body cameras. Why weren't you Beaver County guys and your counter sniper teams? Why weren't they using body cameras?
Yeah,
those are the body cameras that we want, and I agree with you. We need to subpoena these people as fast as possible. Mike Kelly from Pennsylvania District 16 is supposed to lead the investigation task force. That's a little bit like the Fox, investigating the chicken house slaughter. Let's get an independent commission and let's bring in, subpoena everything, all the body cameras, and let's put it out immediately to the public. Immediately.
Absolutely. George Webb, he is georgewebb.substack.com. You can also find him, Real George Webb 1, the number 1, at x.com. Safe travels, brother. I don't know where you're going. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. Keep going, doing the great reporting. God bless you in your travels, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. God bless you, Mike.
All right. Thank you very much. That's the one and only George Webb. Folks, we are on this story here and have been, and I don't care how many people are watching it, but we're going to be a part of documentaries that are going to be made 10 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. They're going to want archival footage of this show and this segment that we just did, because we are on to them. We are on to the story as it should be reported. We're not making conclusions. We're just going where the facts lead us. And I think that's the important thing.